Midday. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the news on 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from our studio at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. Also live on our numerous affiliates across the country, around the world. We're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the TuneIn app from the Google Play or Apple iOS store and listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, investigative journalist Anas Anas recuses himself from testifying in ongoing trial of former GFA boss Kwesi Nyantechi, as he asks the court to, amongst other things, allow him to continue to keep his mask on. This afternoon, we assess his latest position in respect of the law and what happens to the case. Also, with Ghana expected to receive first tranche of $600 million out of $3 billion IMF bailout today, there's still a push for government to review some programs such as free SHS despite assurances the initiative will not be touched. We hear from some educationists, and much later, Vice President Dr. Bawumia and former President Mahama stormed the Kumewu constituency ahead of Tuesday's by-election as development springs up few days to the polls. We have details of these stories and a lot more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM 927, as well as on Twitter, same handles 3FM 927. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. Let's get into the details now. And private investigative journalist Anas Anas has declined an Accra High Court order to allow former GFA President Kwesi Nyantechi identify him in chambers before he testifies in open court in his face mask. The court on Wednesday ordered that Anas reveal his identity to Mr. Nyantechi before mounting the dock to lead evidence against the former GFA president in the number 12 expose. But in response to the order, Tiger IPI said respecting the court's decision only present a clear danger to Anas Anas. They've issued a statement. My colleague Christian Yale, he's joined me in studio with details of that statement. Chris, let's start with the initial decision by Anas to testify in this trial. What were the conditions he put before the Attorney General as basis for him to mount the dock?
All right, yeah. So Anas had initially opted to testify in the stead of his late colleague Ahmed Swale, who was to be the key witness in this case, championed by Tiger IPI. The primary condition that he gave to the AG and the court was that he, Anas, is allowed to testify on condition that his identity is protected or hidden.
That was the condition on which he said he was, and that was agreed upon.
Exactly.
Now he believes this latest order puts his life in danger. Why the statement?
So we know that Mr. Nyantechi and his lawyers had earlier made a case that the court allows Anas to, reveal his identity so that he can make some argument and argue against Anas. But the court made a ruling earlier this week saying that, based on what Nyantechi and his team applied, the application they made, they would allow Anas to rather reveal his identity to Mr. Nyantechi in the judge's chamber before he goes to court, the courtroom, to testify with his masks on. But the statement issued by Anas and the Tiger IPI say this would present a danger to him and his life. Now, to read verbatim what they say, he says that as much as Anas is willing and ready to testify for the prosecution, doing so under the conditions specified by the court present a clear and present danger to his security and safety, especially because of the issues he has mentioned earlier. Now, he also continues to say that under the circumstances, prudence requires that he declines the invitation to endanger his life, and accordingly declines the invitation to reveal his identity to the defendant in the judge's chamber or any other place. Lastly, Tiger IPI says it endorses the position of Anas and states that it is proper and wise to err on the side of caution to avoid any potential attack on another of 8 investigators after the death of Ahmed Swale. Yeah.
Right. So did they state just briefly what would happen to the case, considering this is work done by Tiger IPI, the Anas expose, the number 12 expose?
Now, Eric, so this new development actually presents some challenge. Now, the Attorney General may be compelled to force Anas to testify, in which case they risk having him not cooperating when he mounts the box. Now, another thing that could happen is that Tiger IPI may choose to drop the case entirely, or they may choose to have someone else testify instead of Anas Arimia Anas. But the last option of getting someone else to testify, comes with the risk of that person not having personal knowledge of the evidence or the case. Now, you would recall that, the court had earlier said Anas has been seen in public addressing the media while wearing his head masks. And this shows that he, Anas, is comfortable appearing in public while disguising himself. So now it is a complex situation here, and we see how it goes.
Right then, Christian Yale is my colleague walking us through that statement from the Tiger IPI team. We'll work the telephone lines and bring you a legal perspective on this matter as well. He's been explaining exactly what this means in terms of what should happen to the case. We'll bring you a lot more if you stay with us here on 3FM 92.7. But away from this to some other matters and election-related matters as a matter of fact. And the by-elections in Kumewu comes off this Tuesday. Ahead of that, though, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, former President John Dramani Mahama, and Alan Kojo Mante are embarking on massive campaigning in the Kumewu constituency amidst massive development as the May 23 by-election draws closer. My colleague William Evansinkum, he's been visiting the constituency and has been monitoring the development there as campaigning continues to peak and residents see development. Earlier, when the by-election was announced, the residents had told us here at 3FM that they were not interested in voting for a member of parliament again, as their continuous decision to line up or queue to vote for individuals to become members of parliament and president has yielded little to no results for them. William Evans Sinkum, he's joined us from the Kumewu constituency with a lot more details. Evans, talk to us about exactly what's happening in the Kumewu constituency. The indication we get is that it is buzzing ahead of the by-elections.
We have all the high-profile personalities coming here. For instance, we have the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who will be here very soon. His first stop will be at Teche, where we are at the moment. Then, of course, we're also expecting the former President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama, who will be here at exactly 1:30. Then Alan Kojo Chematen. So it's like, well, they all wrapping up the campaign ahead of May 23 by elections here, and none is taking that for granted.
None is taking it for granted. Aside the individuals, the high key profile individuals who are lined up to visit the constituency, there is development as well springing up quite quickly.
Well, absolutely, supersonic one, and I can tell you that every single person is observing that, and they are only asking one question: why now? It's pretty interesting, but it does appear that even though there's some level of supersonic, development in terms of road projects, but some of the residents are also saying that they've lived with it for a very long time. They've pressed for such, development to happen, but why now? So these are the questions that they're asking. But the government responses, I'm talking about the representative of the government responses are that these developments were just in the pipeline.
And the government says that these developments happen in the pipeline. We know earlier you interacted with residents who made it quite clear that they are not interested in voting again because they've been voting and they don't get to benefit in any way or form. Are these new changes they are seeing in the community changing their minds towards the May 23 by-elections?
Well, they have only one message to what is happening now, and that is in the midst of adversity, there is an opportunity. So why not? They welcome it. But then the question is, must it take somebody to die before such development comes to pass? It's a multi-dollar question that they're asking.
Right then, William Evansinko, my colleague in the Kumewu constituency, providing details there for us as to exactly what's been happening ahead of the May 23 by-elections. I must mention our top story for this afternoon. However, investigative journalist Anas Arimio Anas recusing himself from testifying in an ongoing trial of former GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi, citing clear and present danger to his security should he proceed to show his face before going into the door. We'll get some legal perspective for you if you stay with us on this afternoon's edition of the Bulletin. But let's talk security now, because the security analyst Dr. Aborampah has shut down suggestions that promotion in the police service is based on qualification. According to him, promotion is a function of administrative processes and not cast in stone. He's been reacting to a suit filed by some 82 police officers against the Attorney General and the Inspector General of Police over failure to promote them despite meeting the criteria. All the plaintiffs applied for the 2017-2018 academic year study leave with pay program for tertiary courses ranging between 2 and 4 years. However, after completing their respective courses, the police administration has allegedly failed to promote them contrary to the convention. Dr. Aborampah contends that promotion is purely discretionary.
I think that promotions should not just be based on paper qualification, personally. It's something that elsewhere it is not done. Elsewhere, promotions are just not based on paper qualification. There's a reason why elsewhere you will find people with master's degree driving taxis, people with master's degree actually working as security guards. And so I think that, generally, I'm speaking on this generally, not based on the suit in court, that if we want to develop as a country, we need to move away from that attitude where people, you go to the university, you come back and you say, please promote me because I have earned a certain degree. The police service regulation, take the CI 76 and then go specifically to section 37, 1, 2, 3. You read them jointly. Then you should be able to apprise yourself with regards to what the details are. I don't want to take away what they put because that is dependent on the court to adjudicate or to decide on the merits of the matter before court. But what I'm saying is that if the act of policing, when I say policing, the act of democratic policing all over the world, it's 99% discretion. And so I see, excuse me to say, a lot of these things to be more of administrative.
That's security analyst Dr. Aborampah. Meanwhile, a member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament and former Police Superintendent Peter Lanchene-Tobu says the internal dispute resolution mechanism in the police service must be explored. He's urging the police administration and the police council to intervene to settle the matter.
The police service has laid down mechanisms to deal with internal grievances. Every police officer agreed to the point that you have to go to court means that the internal processes have not helped you enough. But I don't know how far they have gone with believing and trusting that the internal processes will work. If all they have done is just go to court, I will be disappointed. But if they have petitioned the police management board without any response, they petitioned the police council headed by the vice president of the Republic of Ghana, and there is nothing that they have received from the police council. And they are so frustrated at the point that they can only get resolution or relief from the court. The police administration cannot be run from the court.
As a member of the Defence and Interior Committee, and WAWSP Peter Lanchinitobu is also a former police superintendent. Let's get on the phone now and gauge the thought of Emmanuel Kuti. He's also a security analyst on this particular matter. Many thanks, Mr. Kuti, for speaking to us. And so, a suit obviously doesn't do the image of the police any good. How should this be resolved? There's been calls for administrative processes to take care of the matter, but it appears it hasn't done that. Reason why these individuals have resorted to the courts.
Well, Mawuena, thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your cherished listeners. In fact, if you look at the issue per se, it should be a matter of concern to everybody, because our security institutions have very guided rules, and they are the least institution that can go to the extent these officers have gone. And if you look at management theories, it falls under two: equity theory and organizational justice. So if you look at these theories per se, even if as many as, let's say, 12 employees raises a concern about motivational issues, like promotion, like these officers are talking about, it is worth a second look, especially given that these are security officers. So the question we have to ask ourselves is that, is it true that many have been promoted multiple times within a short space of time as expected? Is it also true that some may not have been promoted beyond the expected period? So for me, it is good for the police as an institution, at least for future reforms agenda. The problem I see here is institutional. And just like we are questioning the 1992 Constitution, that power is in the hands of an individual, so is some of our security institutions. The IGP has so much power, and we must look for reforms into achieving this. And truth be told, if you look at the peers of the IGP, he's not popular among them as we talk, because of his heavy-handedness in dealing with certain issues. And if you listen to some of these officers, it's not as if they just woke up and went to court. They try it with the police as an administrative matter. They got no responses. They petitioned the police council. They got no responses. And to see a renowned lawyer like lawyer Otu leading this cause, it means that there is fundamentally something wrong somewhere that is worth a second look.
So for you, who should be intervening? There are those who say that the president should take keen interest in this matter and have it resolved, because, like you mentioned, the police is really important, and it will be worrying if they continue to engage in bickering of such nature.
I think it will not be good for these issues to play out in court. The police council is headed by the vice president. I think he's clothed with enough powers to intervene immediately. And I don't want us to use these police officers as guinea pigs and victimize them. They are the brave ones who have come out to speak for the majority. And I think that these officers should rather be commended for being brave in coming out to expose some of these injustices in the system that is bringing morale low within the service. Otherwise, we wake up one day and there will be an implosion on our face, and we don't want to see things of this nature. In a democracy such as ours, we must encourage institutions to work well. And I think it's about time the police council step into this matter and they resolve the grievances of these officers.
Right.
And the truth be told, if you look at the services, at the service as it is, it's open knowledge that promotions are based on whom you know, the political party you belong.
Right.
And certain people are promoted multiple times within a short period of time. I don't think that augurs well for the overall well-being of a security institution like the police.
Right then, Mr. Kuting, I appreciate that you could speak to us.
Thank you so much.
That's Emmanuel Kuting. He's a security analyst speaking to us this afternoon. You're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handle's 3FM 927, as well as on Twitter. Same handle's 3FM 927. Let's return to our top story this afternoon, where private investigative journalist Anas Anas has recused himself from testifying in the ongoing trial of former GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi. Let's get on the telephone line now. Private legal practitioner and law lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, Vitus Bang. He's joined us on the telephone lines for some legal perspective on this matter. Many thanks, counsel, for speaking to us. So, your thoughts first on the decision of the High Court asking Anas to testify when he agreed to only testify if he could keep his identity hidden.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners. A point of correction, I no longer teach at University of Professional Studies.
Right.
I just wanted to put that on record. Yes, the court has the right to make such an order because the prosecution of a person for a criminal offense has many consequences. The person is likely to be thrown into jail, prison, if the person were to be found guilty of the offense. So the stakes are high. So every criminal defense lawyer would be pursuing the ultimate best interest of his client, basically to see that client walk away not guilty if the client indeed has not committed the offense. And even if the client has committed an offense, the procedural techniques are there that may not the benefit of the client. So it is within the right of the accused person to demand that I want to know who my accuser is. It is alleged that some transactions were had and there were some exchanges of money and all of that. It may be important for the accused person to know whether indeed at any point in time he met this person who is now claiming that he took a bribe. And it is within the right of the accused person to ask for that. And if the court grants it, I think that it is also quite fair. But again, that comes to the heart of the matter, whether or not Aremiao Anas can be compelled to proceed to more or less unmask himself. And I'm not sure that he can be compelled in that manner. And so the best that he can do under the circumstances is to say that he's not willing to testify anymore.
And then what happens to the case? Because the primary witness, Ahmed Swale, unfortunately died. Anas was to take his stead on the condition that he doesn't reveal his identity. Now that is also becoming a hurdle.
Yes, so that is going to be a very big blow to the prosecution. But you and I may not be too sure of how many witnesses the prosecution intended to call. Any of these witnesses must have sufficient personal knowledge of the facts of all those allegations that are being made, and such a person should be able to answer questions on cross-examination from the lawyers of the accused person or accused persons. And to the extent that Anas Aremiao is not willing to testify, and to the extent that Ahmed Swale, a key witness, is no longer alive to testify, it looks like the prosecution will have a very Herculean task in trying to prosecute their case and for a court of law to find the accused person guilty beyond reasonable doubt. So, in my opinion, the prosecution of this case may not see the light of the day. Yes, that's what I personally think.
Right then, I appreciate that you could speak to us, counsel.
Pleasure is mine.
That's Vitus Bang. He's a private legal practitioner and former lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, a law lecturer there. We'll move away from this to tariff increases because June 1 appears to be the start dates for more hardship for the ordinary Ghanaian. That's in spite of the government securing some $600 million first tranche of the IMF bailout package. That's because the twin effect of water and electricity tariff increment, which cumulatively range around 25%, would take effect. And barring any interventions, it will mean citizens will have to pay more for the essential utilities. While labor groups like NAT and NAGRAT have bemoaned the increment already, eroding any salary increases, business owners in Kumasi say the survival of their businesses are threatened. Ibrahim Abubakar has visited the business district in Kumasi and put this report together.
Even before she gets used to purchasing 20,000 Ghana cedis worth of power from the previous 15,000 Ghana cedis for a cold store business, Ifia Fowa has to cough up additional 3,600 Ghana cedis following an adjustment in electricity tariff. The 18.36% increase in electricity means she will now buy power at 23,600 Ghana cedis every week to keep her business running.
We buy power every week. Already, we are complaining about the price, and now there has been an increment. This means we will spend additional 8,000 Ghana cedis. Government should intervene and, if possible, reduce the tariff, else we shut down our business. This wasn't the promise made to us.
Just like many of her colleagues, the mother of three is worried the cost of doing business in Ghana is getting to a point where more people would be discouraged from venturing into entrepreneurship. The once booming printing press business at Asafo in Kumasi is no more attractive to most of the youth here. High electricity tariff, coupled with the increased cost of production material, is threatening the survival of the business. Roland described the recent increment in electricity as insensitive.
We used to buy like 2,000 per month, but now as they've increased it again, I don't know how much they are being insensitive because they don't think about business owners. Because as we are here, KMA will come for KMA store license, internal revenue will come, SNIT will come, VAT will come, and now the light increments. They don't care about how we manage to sustain our business. All they think about is increments. Investing into the printing field is not attractive anymore.
With IMF approving the $3 billion bailout for Ghana, business owners expect government to put in place mechanisms that will address the country's economic crisis and prevent businesses from going to the wall. Ibrahim Abubakar, Kumasi.
Ibrahim there with that report, and we'll stay on conversations relating to the IMF because the country is expected to receive the first tranche of the $600 million out of the $3 billion bailout today, and that was disclosed by the finance minister yesterday. And amongst many other things, there's been concerns about how social intervention programs such as LEAP and Free SHS will not be affected, but there's still a push for government to review the program in the light of the current economic challenges. We'll hear from Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta, who's been speaking to these social interventions.
Government is implementing 44 different social protection interventions to reduce poverty and bridge the inequality gap in the country. Popular among them are the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, LEAP, the Ghana School Feeding Program, and the Free Senior High School Program. The work concerns these interventions would be affected as government finds avenues to cut down spending as part of fulfilling requirement for an IMF bailout. But the finance minister at the joint news
the issue of ensuring that we protect the vulnerable is very clear in the program.
So that's Finance Minister Charles Ahetu Chega is the former Director General of the Ghana Education Service. He's joined us on phone for just quick thoughts. I'm sure we'll have to extend the conversation subsequently. But initially, there were concerns whether the free SHS will be affected by the IMF program. Government says it's among the social intervention programs that will not be touched. But given the economic conditions, should that still be the position of the government?
Hello?
Can you hear me, please?
Say that again, please.
I'm asking if the position of government that nothing will happen to the free SHS program should remain in the face of all of the economic challenges.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share. It's very, very unfortunate that government has taken such a position when it has become very, very obvious that the free SHS program is encountering a lot of difficulties. One would have thought that this is a very good opportunity for it to begin to do a proper analysis of the free SHS and to put in some changes that will ensure that the programs become more successful than what it currently is. But if it says that, well, there is nothing wrong with it to stay as the same, then we have become like a headless chicken and we don't know which direction that we will be going in. Because right from the get-go, the government did not develop any plan for it. It went with people's emotions and declared that it was going to support poor people, and that was all the free SHS was about. Only to realize that free SHS would eventually result in other significant interventions that the government had not even planned for.
Right then, Mr. Ahetu Chega, we'll have to leave the conversation here and bring it to our listeners subsequently. That's Charles Ahetu Chega, as a former Director General of the Ghana Education Service, speaking to us this afternoon. That's how we end this afternoon's edition of the Bulletin. And Akua Mensah Aborampah, she's on standby to bring us the very latest in the world of business. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. A lot more news if you log on to 3news.com.
A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us on Business Daily. My name is Akua Mensah Aborampah. And coming up this afternoon, economists worried Ghana's IMF program could affect government's revenue targets due to expected decline in growth in 2023. And the Ghana Revenue Authority warns it will not relent in its efforts to rake in more revenue for the state through compliance enforcement. We have all the details in the next few minutes. You would want to stay with us. Let's begin with more developments from the IMF deal, and it would interest you to know that by close of business day today, we are expecting the first tranche of $600 million to hit the central bank account. To be updating you on that. But while Ghana's IMF program aims to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability, there are fears this could impact negatively on growth. The IMF is projecting a decline in growth this year because of the crisis and the planned fiscal consolidation measures. Speaking to 3 business economists with the University of Cape Coast Business School, Professor John Gachi believes this could consequently affect the government's revenue targets.
Growth should produce revenue, and since the growth is truncated, it's going to be one of the lowest growth after COVID-19. We do not expect that the portion of revenue that will be generated from growth will be achieved. That is why government is actually scaling up new taxes, expanding the old taxes, which we think that will be counterproductive of all these taxes, which we think that people will find way of actually accommodating the tax in a manner that they will not pay. So we do not expect that the revenue will be achieved in real terms, and when that happens, that will be a serious risk to the program.
Professor John Gachi is economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Now, Ghana's negotiations with the IMF will result in 2 separate disbursements of the $3 billion bailout package this year alone, and this will amount to $1.2 billion. Subsequent disbursements of the amount will, however, depend on Ghana's ability to fulfill certain requirements under the program. And in the following report, we give you a breakdown of what to expect with the program in the couple of years that we're expecting it to run. That is between this time around to 2026. In all, Ghana is expected to receive 7 tranches out of the $3 billion bailout package. The first 2 tranches rather come in heavy. $600 million is expected to hit the central bank account by close of business day Friday, and the other $600 million will be received on November 1, 2023 after a successful review. Now, apart from the first tranche, the remaining 6 tranches will be disbursed based on a successful assessment of the program by the IMF. According to 3 business sources, after the first 2 heavy tranches of $600 million, $360 million will spread in the rest of the tranches from May 1, 2024 through to April 16, 2026, following a successful review. Now, the IMF is expected to review the performance of government with the program twice a year before these tranches are released. The assessment on performance will also be based on 9 out of 15 structural reforms of the IMF program and a quantitative performance criteria set under the program. As part of requirements of the program, government is expected to reduce its primary balance deficit of 3.6% to a surplus of 1.5% of GDP by 2025. The program and structural reforms are expected to support macroeconomic stability and growth of the economy. And away from the developments on IMF, Ghana Revenue Authority warns it will not relent in its efforts to rake in more revenue for the state through compliance enforcement. The Accra Area Enforcement Team of the authority embarked on a VAT compliance exercise in the Medina and Adentan municipalities to enhance revenue collection. The test purchase program of enforcement led to the arrest of some 8 managers and shopkeepers for failure to issue VAT receipts. The team visited some 8 businesses comprising 2 eateries and 6 shops in the 2 municipalities, holding receipts from an earlier mystery shopping by an official of the authority. Though the businesses have registered as VAT issuing entities, some were either doing selective issuance or not issuing at all. The 8 businesses were Tasty Treats at the University of Ghana, Obsession, Laxiware and Eco Furniture, all in East Legon. The rest were Paladin in Medina and the Lord of Hosts Enterprise, AB Tissue and more, and TF's Eatery, all in Adenta. Speaking to the media about the exercise, Joseph Annan of the Accra Area Enforcement said the GRA will continue the exercise and businesses which fall culprit will be arrested and handed over to their legal team to take the necessary actions.
We deal with the law, and Section 41 of the VAT Act clearly states that you should be issuing the invoice at all times. So whether selective or not, once we come and you fill the text, obviously, then you need to be arrested, and then the CID will take charge of, the processes involved and build a docket for our legal unit to carry on.
And that was a report put together by Shadrach Asrifi. Just before we go, the Pensioner Bondholders Forum has given government a May 19 ultimatum, which is exactly today, Friday, to settle all outstanding coupon payments of its members. Speaking to 3 Business, the convener of the group, Dr. Idwan Entry, lamented that not a single member of the group has received payment despite the promises made to them during their last picketing.
Well, we have already sent a letter to the ministry. Apart from the press release that we issued, we have sent a letter to the ministry and stated clearly that these 3 points, paying all the outstanding coupons this week, then paying the coupons that will be matured subsequently on time, as and when they are due, and then we concluding agreement with the government or the ministry on the payment of the outstanding principals. 3 principals now outstanding. We say we're written that this week, by 19th of May, which is Friday, we should conclude that discussion. Give this 1 week as a goodwill gesture for government to do what it should do. And if we don't get the results, we go back to the default situation.
And that was the convener of the group, that is the Pensioner Bondholders Forum. Today is the deadline of that 1 week ultimatum. We would follow up to find out if they have received any payments following the promises from government. But when you log on to 3news.com, we have more business news updates. My name is Nana Akua Mensah Aborampah. Enjoy your afternoon and your lunch, and Black Rasta joins you shortly. Good afternoon.